Welcome to Truman's Town Hall with your host, Matt Truman.
Hello. This is Matt Truman. Thank you for downloading this episode. Thank you for sharing with a friend. Thank you for sharing with your neighbors, your friends, your acquaintances, that old lady down the street, that dude you don't like at the gym, the guy you met in a carpool lane, whomever. Thank you. Today, we got a lot to talk about. We always have a lot to talk about because we do this podcast like once a week, maybe twice a week sometimes. And there's always stuff that piles in, right? A lot of stuff going on in the world, folks. Will Elon Musk buy Twitter? Dun, dun, dun. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with that. It'd be interesting. Would he bring free speech to the platform? Who knows? There's a lot of interesting things on Twitter, right? A lot of interesting people putting out interesting topics on Twitter, but they tend to ban the old conservatives like myself from the Twitters. I'm on Twitter, but I don't have any followers over there because I had to change it. The Truman's Town Hall podcast, I got locked out of that or got booted off. I can't remember which. But that one had quite a bit of followers on, but the one I'm at now doesn't. Oh, poor me. Anyway, I just started it, I think, like in January, back up just to follow some things, especially with the war. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can catch over there from the war. It's actually an interesting place to look. So let's update a little bit, folks. Let's update a little bit on the shooting in Brooklyn, right? What did I say last week? That story wouldn't make it out of the week, and it didn't. It's gone. It is gone. Guy shoots up a train, and it's just gone. Huh. I wonder if this is why.
I tell American Negro this, I keep telling you the same thing. White people and black people, as we call ourselves, should not have any contact with each other. You still refuse to understand this. You want to make up some fucking story about some Jesus and the Bible said dumb shit. They don't see it that way. They hate your fucking guts. And why do they hate your guts? Because they know that your rightful place is as a fucking slave in this country. They know that. You're the only one that doesn't realize that. And now you want to be equal to them by force. They didn't choose to elect. They didn't elect to make you an equal. You had to force them to make you an equal. And now they're just getting more angry and more angry. The anger is building up. And nothing can happen here differently than what happened over in Europe with the Jews.
The alleged Brooklyn subway shooter Frank James, ladies and gentlemen. The alleged. It's very important to say that. He hasn't been convicted. I am a person who believes in the rule of law. He has to go through trial. New York believes this is the man who's done it. That's why they have arrested him. And we'll see. And we'll follow it up. Now, you can Google Frank James. You can Google subway shooting, New York subway shooting, Brooklyn subway shooting, and you have to scroll down a little bit to get to this story. Why? Huh. Interesting. They squashed it because he apparently believes that white people, all white people apparently, hate black folks. Not true. I love the black people. I love all people. I'm just one white guy. Of course, I do have a mixed DNA, but I still love all people. I look white. I look white as heck. I love all people. There's not anyone that I know that hates black people. There's some folks I may know that get accused of it by people like Frank James, but I don't know. Yeah. He put that on YouTube or Twitters or something. That video. It's disgusting to listen to. I wonder if race was a factor in this. Huh. Interesting. I wonder if that's why they charged him with terroristic. What did they actually charge him with? I mean, the guy shot 10 people. Come on. So the federal prosecutors charged Mr. James with carrying out a terroristic attack on a mass transit system. It was a terroristic attack. Closed doors. You're in this little tube, right? They call it tubes in England, if you haven't been there. You're in the tubes, and he just pulls out a gun and starts shooting, and it jams up on him. Jams up. A lot of folks got in, and I'm glad no one has died. And like I said on the last podcast, it looked like a lot of folks were hit in the lower extremities. I'm going to continue to follow this story, folks, and I'm going to, just like I follow the Waukesha, the Wisconsin guy who drove his red SUV through the old ladies dance troupe. We remember that. I'm following that, but, you know, the mainstream media is not going to follow this for you. If it was somebody like Dylan Roof, who was equally racist and went into a black church and shot and killed 9 people, good humans who were only trying to pray with each other. Man. Guys like that need to be in the news. We need to understand what goes on with people like this, idiots like this, scumbags. I mean, what else can you say? Devils. It's upsetting. It sucks. What a world, folks. And it's not the gun. That's what they're going to try to make it out to be. It's always about the gun. It's not guns. Whether you've had a background check or not, you can still commit a crime. It's not guns. It's people. People are committing these crimes. Guns are not. Guns are not the issue. Here in the United States, we have something called the Second Amendment, and it's good we have that. To defend ourselves, and yes, to go hunting, and yes, to defend your home. Or, in times of war, look, they passed out weapons in Ukraine, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, right? We'll talk a little update on that. But in Ukraine, they started passing out automatic weapons. Now, I'm pretty far right when it comes to the Second Amendment. I'm pretty far left on some other social issues, but I'm far right on the Second Amendment. If I'm legally able to carry a semi-auto, I should be able to carry an auto if I wanted to. I don't like automatic. Now, when I was in the military, I was not the selector. It was a 3-round burst for our M4s. I don't like it. I like being able to pull the trigger, single shot, boom, boom. If I wanted to double tap, I could double tap. Maybe a 3-round burst, laying down cover fire, things like that. That's fine. I get it. But if you're actually shooting at a target or an enemy, I like single shot. Doom, 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 doom. I like knowing, Anyway, that's just me. But the selector's there for a reason. If you need to lay down cover fire, get some bullets out real quick, boom, select it. Pop, 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 pop. Pop, 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 pop. Anyway. Yeah, they're going to come after the guns here in America, folks. They're already making a move. There's a lot of different moves. Beto's running for governor in Texas. He's not going to win. He's not going to win unless they steal the election in Texas. It could happen, right? Anything could happen. Are you surprised about anything these days? Are you surprised about this?
Space is exciting. It spurs our imaginations, and it forces us to ask big questions. Space, it affects us all, and it connects us all.
Space, the final frontier.
These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Oh, wow, ladies and gentlemen. You have probably the smartest, the most eloquent, the most dandy vice president in the United States that has ever reached the title of vice president. Isn't she smart? She's so smart. Oh my gosh. Speaking of space and Elon Musk in the news with Twitter and whatnot, out of the Guardian, SpaceX launches top secret U.S. spy satellite, and then safely lands booster. SpaceX has launched a top secret spy satellite for the U.S. government and then successfully landed the booster for recycling. The unmanned Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from a NASA-leased pad in Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Interesting. Elon Musk works for NASA, essentially, right? He's a contractor for NASA, launching space satellites. He's going to take over Twitter. There's a interesting little battle there. Do you think he's going to allow Trump to come back to Twitter? Trump's coming to Ohio, by the way, Saturday, the 23rd of April. Truman's Town Hall may go. You guys know, if you've listened to this podcast long enough, I'm not the greatest Trump fan, but I may go in order to get some clips for the podcast and talk to some folks. I may. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I haven't pulled the trigger on that as a go mission, but I may. And if I do, next podcast, I'll have those clips for you here. Anyway, Elon Musk launching satellites and taking over Twitter. So he works for the government. A lot of the government, right, especially now, was very happy when Twitter banned Trump and Facebook banned Trump and YouTube banned Trump. And, you know, he pretty much got the Alex Jones treatment. Everybody did, right? If you're conservative, you're getting the Alex Jones treatment. He was really the first to be canceled from all social media, wasn't he, Alex Jones? Because he's a big conspiracy theorist. I think there's a lot of things he gets wrong, Alex Jones, and I think there's a lot of things he gets right. I thought that the Sandy Hook thing was horrible, what he did. I couldn't imagine being one of those parents who had to live through that. But at the same time, in America, you have a right to speak. There was not too long ago, there was something that happened on one of the local pages I run for our local folks. Somebody wrote something that I didn't necessarily agree with, but I helped with another person run a free speech Facebook page. It's been, trust me, it's been touched a couple times by Facebook. But anyway, somebody wrote something on there that I didn't personally like, and then I got a message from somebody saying, hey, you need to take that down because that's very offensive. And I just had to write back, look, I don't like it either, but this is free speech. And as long as it's not illegal, we have to allow it because nobody allows things like that, especially local pages. I mean, they're always worried about something. I'm not worried about it. It is what it is. If it's not illegal, it's not illegal. I don't have to like it. I heard, speaking of Elon Musk, I think he wrote, if you allow folks you don't like to say things you don't like, then we have free speech. Isn't that right? We're allowed to dislike people, to say things we dislike, but as long as we're not out there trying to quote unquote cancel them, it should be okay. It should be okay. It's free speech. We can be angry. We can say, you know what, I'm not going to buy that product that they sell, or I'm not going to listen to that podcast that Truman's Town Hall puts out. You can do that. You can turn this podcast off right now if you want to, right? That's what free speech is. And you can also say, you know what, Truman, you're wrong. And we debate the idea. truepodcast@gmail.com. If you think I'm wrong about anything, you're welcome to email me. You know, if you want to come on here and debate me, okay, let's do it. I don't care. I'll debate anybody. I have no problem with that. I keep up on what happens, and I'm very confident in what I believe. But, yeah, SpaceX is launching their rockets. Elon Musk is trying to buy Twitter. What else is happening in the world? Johnny Depp suing his ex-wife. It was like with this Will Smith thing. Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. When you scroll through Facebook, all I'm seeing is Johnny Depp sues his ex-wife. He's on the stand. It's like, good night. I know there's folks that want to look at that, but if you're so interested in that drama, get into the drama of politics, because those people are making your laws. The politician makes the laws that you have to adhere to. You might want to make sure that they're not creating laws that might damage your family, damage your bank account, or damage your livelihood and maybe starve you out. I don't know. That's just me. Or take away your freedom of religion or your freedom of speech or whatever. I think it's so important to pay attention to what's going on. That's why I do these podcasts, because this is just we do like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on the podcast. Sometimes we bring folks on this podcast, which I need to bring another interview on here. Talk to somebody, maybe update with some other folks we've talked to in the past, right? I think it's good to have a conversation, break this up a little bit. But I do like to go through these news clips. I like to go through the news of the day and discuss it with you folks. If we have time at the end, I'll read some more emails. We're getting emails. This podcast is being shared out worldwide, and I appreciate it. So I thank you. Anyway, rabbit hole. Sorry, I'll climb out. Did you guys hear about Malcolm Nance, NBC News contributor, right? I believe a military analyst of some type. He came out from Ukraine, having joined the Ukrainians' Foreign Legion, whatever it's called, foreign ranks. I don't mean to laugh. I know there's a lot, I kind of sit mixed. I don't want the United States to get into it because I don't want World War III. But at the same time, I feel sorry for all the civilians that have to be in between this battle. It's like, man, my heart breaks. Kids, women, children. It's just, it's horrible. But anyway, let's listen to Malcolm Nance, MSNBC News. I laugh at him because his interview was hilarious. But anyway, here's Malcolm Nance, MSNBC.
I spent quite a bit of time here in the pre-war period. And when the invasion happened, I had friends who were in Donetsk, who were in the Ukrainian army, who were writing to us and telling us, we're not going to survive tonight. We've been hit 500 times. These are graduates of Defense Language Institute. These were my friends. And, as the more I saw of the war going on, the more I thought, I'm done talking. All right. It's time to take action here. So about a month ago, I joined the International Legion here in Ukraine, and I am here to help this country fight, what essentially is a war of extermination. This is an existential war, and Russia has bought it to these people, and they are mass murdering civilians. And there are people here like me who are here to do something about it.
All right, so Malcolm Nance is a former United States Navy Senior Chief Petty Officer. He was an intelligence and foreign policy analyst, and he's wrote some things. He's been a contributor for MSNBC. He's 60 years old. 60. He's not going to do a lot of fighting in Ukraine. And he may. You know what? I may be wrong. He may. Because they may need him over there. And in that interview, which we need to play the full interview. I have the full interview. We should play the full interview. But we'll do it in a minute. He was holding what looked like to be a Kalashnikov, an AK-47. He was in full battle dress, rocking the American flag. Look, I get it. You're an American. But if you're fighting for a foreign government, You should not be allowed to wear the American flag. I'm just saying, if you're fighting for a foreign government, you shouldn't be allowed to wear the American flag. You wear what you want. You know, it's a free country. But I don't know. That's just my thought on the matter. Let's play the full interview. It's about 11 minutes long, so you can fast forward this or you can listen to the full interview. I believe in listening to the entirety of it. We heard that little clip. That's the clip that's been going around on conservative media, right? But I'm going to play the full clip for you because I want you to get the scope of all of this. He's done reporting in Ukraine. He's seen a lot of different things, and he acts real in the interview. He's like, he says that there's cruise missiles flying overhead, and he starts to count them off. Like I don't know what the guy's doing. He seems incompetent to me, but that's just me. I don't know. I've seen a lot of incompetent folks out there in the military, and when they say it's military grade, folks, I'm just saying it may not be the best grade possible. Here we go. Full interview, Malcolm Nance, MSNBC, with the illustrious and joyful Joy Reid from her program, The Readout, spelled R-E-I-D.
Good evening, everyone. We begin the readout tonight with yet another escalation of Putin's war in Ukraine. Late today, President Zelensky said that Russia has begun an all-out offensive in the east. In his latest video, the Ukrainian leader said that the Russian military has begun the battle for Donbas. It's something Ukraine has been preparing for, a new phase of the war that could see up to 3 times as many Russian troops in the Donbas region. That region includes the city of Mariupol, which Russia needs in order to forge a land corridor to Crimea. The city is besieged. At least 100,000 people remain without access to food and water. But Ukrainian soldiers are still holding on as Russian forces swarm the city. The Ukrainians rejected Russia's proposal to spare their lives if they would stop fighting. Meanwhile, Russia is not in full control of the city yet. We are learning more about the treatment of Ukrainians in places Russia has occupied, however, like in Irpin, where new drone video shows dozens of graves. Police say that investigators have examined 269 dead bodies in the city. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin is rewarding his soldiers accused of war crimes in Bucha, giving them an honorary title and praising their special merits, mass heroism, and courage. And the city of Kharkiv is still under attack, with at least 2 civilians killed in shelling today. Residents there are evacuating, but one woman told Reuters that it's futile if all of Ukraine is under attack anyway.
Эвакуироваться, во-первых, куда? Это раз. По всей Украине бьют. Вы видите, и во Львов сегодня прилетело, и в Днепр прилетело, везде. Куда меня приглашают, это в Херсон моя подруга. Он оккупирован. К этим гнидам в оккупацию я не поеду. Даже не буду прятаться в оккупации от них.
She's referring to missiles that struck the western city of Lviv, a haven for displaced Ukrainians and refugees on their way out of the country. Lviv is also a supplies and logistics hub, with the city suffering its first fatalities since the beginning of the war. That attack in Lviv hit close to home today, with my colleague, the great Ali Arouzi, and friend of the show, Malcolm Nance, seeing the missiles rush by as they conducted an interview.
Ukraine's unique territory.
Is that going down?
No, but I've never seen a fast mover. I'm wondering whether that was a cruise missile. Did you see the aircraft?
No, I haven't seen it.
Are we in an air raid?
Yes. Yeah, we are. We had the air raid. So there's another coming.
Wait, there'll be 3. Stand by. Striking to the west, that's 2. We should get at least one more. That wasn't a plane, it was a cruise missile.
That was a cruise missile?
Yeah. Wait for one more. They're fired in 30-second intervals. They fire them in 30-second intervals. Smoke.
There we go.
Stand by. 3, cruise missile, caliber.
Look.
Stand by. 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Yeah, there
12,
it is. There's the
13,
smoke.
13.
There's the smoke.
That's 3.
So 3 cruise missiles.
Yeah.
Joining me now from Lviv is NBC News correspondent Ali Arouzi. And Ali, that is harrowing footage. We had come to think of Lviv as the safer place, at least the safer place, because it is so far to the west. What does it mean that Russia would strike there? I mean, literally, in the middle of your interview, there are those cruise missiles flying overhead.
Hi, Joy. That's right. I mean, look, you could hear in the interview, the one that we actually saw, the second one, it was so big, I thought it was an airplane. So that's the last thing we were expecting there. And then you saw that thump. And of course, throughout the beginning of this conflict, the outskirts of Lviv have been hit. They've hit fuel depots and airplane factories, but never the center of the city. This was a very built-up area full of apartments, houses. And it was done at 8:30 in the morning when people are going about their daily routine. Now, the Russians said in a statement that they hit a warehouse where ammunition from the west was coming in from, but they didn't say that they hit an auto repair shop. And this is the first time that they've killed people here in Lviv. 7 people were killed in that strike. Amongst the injured was a 3-year-old child that had escaped from Kharkiv, only to be injured by a Russian missile here in what was supposed to be a safe zone. And we've seen waves and waves of displaced people coming here, looking for sanctuary, looking for refuge in Lviv, but they're no longer finding that here. You speak to Ukrainians all through the day today, and they don't say, will Lviv be hit again? They ask, when will Lviv be hit again? So Putin has really broadened his canvas of attacks, and he's made it very clear that there is no more sanctuary in this country. So people are very on edge here. They were shaken up before this happened when the outskirts of the city was hit. Now they are really frightened that they could be a target in this war here in Lviv.
And it is pretty remarkable. I mean, is the idea, and is what you're hearing on the ground, that Russia is expanding because they don't seem to have the capability, to be blunt, to wage war throughout this massive country. They seem to have been, at least up until the last couple of weeks, focusing on the east, on trying to sort of create this land bridge to Crimea. Does it feel, at least as you're there in Lviv, that they've changed that plan and are again trying to take the whole country?
I'm not sure if they're trying. I mean, Malcolm will be able to speak to this much better than I can, but I'm not sure they'd be able to take the country. So as they're botching their attack more and more, they hold on to none of the major cities here except Kherson. The Ukrainians are still in control of much of their land. So they keep terrorizing the populations, as we've seen in Bucha, in Irpin, in Hostomel, now here in Lviv. So that tactic is, I think, is to make people very frightened here, to make the Ukrainian people capitulate and say, we've had enough of these bombs raining down on us. But if anybody has been to this country, the Ukrainians are in no mood to capitulate. They're in no mood to give up even an inch of their land. Even Zelensky said if those soldiers in Mariupol are killed, a deal is off the table. So they are determined at whatever cost to hold on to their land, hold on to their sovereignty, and look after each other here in Ukraine.
Ali Arouzi, please be safe, my friend. Really appreciate you in Lviv. Much appreciated. And joining me now from a secure location in Western Ukraine is Malcolm Nance, Executive Director of the Terror Asymmetrics Project. He's fighting with the International Legion of Territorial Defense of Ukraine. And Malcolm, we just watched that video of you, and Ali Arouzi was attempting to interview you for us to get more information on what you're doing. We saw those cruise missiles fly overhead. So explain to us why you are there and what you are doing.
Well, as you know, I spent quite a bit of time here in the pre-war period. And when the invasion happened, I had friends who were in Donetsk, who were in the Ukrainian army, who were writing to us and telling us, we're not going to survive tonight. We've been hit 500 times. These are graduates of Defense Language Institute. These were my friends. And, as the more I saw of the war going on, the more I thought, I'm done talking. All right. It's time to take action here. So about a month ago, I joined the International Legion here in Ukraine, and I am here to help this country fight, what essentially is a war of extermination. This is an existential war, and Russia has bought it to these people, and they are mass murdering civilians. And there are people here like me who are here to do something about it.
And we have some video here. This is some video that was shot by Ali's team of yourself with some supplies and the things that you are working on while you're there. We know there are about 20,000 people from 52 countries that are currently in Ukraine and have been there from the start of the war. What are international troops like yourself, what are you all tasked to do?
Well, we are here for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to protect the innocent people of Ukraine from this Russian aggression. And, you know, it's not a conventional war, Joy. Even though you have two armed forces going head to head here, what you have is you have another group. I won't even refer to the Russians as an army, just using mass heavy weapons that are used in combat against civilians. They are destroying infrastructure. And then you find that they go to the cities and they massacre men, women, and children. And that is the fundamental reason everyone is here. The International Legion is a multinational force. It is men and women. There are, thousands here who are here to protect this country. And for the most part, we really have to assist them in any way to stop this. And so I've decided I came here to assist them, with the skills that I have myself.
And we know that there is a tradition of Americans and others going overseas to assist in wars overseas. Eugene Bullard is somebody who people think of in that way as an African-American young man, 19 years old, went over and fought in 2 world wars. So we know that there is a tradition of doing this. And I wonder for you, do you feel that, foreigners stick out wherever they are? People know that you clearly are not Ukrainian when they see you. Do you think that poses any special danger to the people who are not Ukrainian who are there?
No, it doesn't, because the war that's being waged here is being waged against everybody. Look, they're not going around hunting for American flag patches or to see who's black, who's Asian, who's Latino. We are a part of the Ukrainian armed forces. We are brothers and sisters with the Ukrainian army. And that being said, we are fighting side by side, elbow to elbow with them. The Russians, on the other hand, they barely, except for when they're doing these offensives and moving with armor forces down these highways, they're barely attacking the Ukrainians. They're maintaining a line, but their emphasis seems to be the mass murder of civilians, which is against all laws of war. These are war crimes. So believe me, the International Legion here, which is a viable, strong combat force, which is out on the line. No one's going around asking whether, if you're Asian or you're Catholic or you're Jewish, whether you're actually helping the people of Ukraine. They are grateful for the help. And I'm grateful to be here. I'm glad that I can help my friends. And I don't have to listen to them talk about how many children were killed that day. We're going to try to put a stop to it.
All right. That was Joy Reid and Malcolm Nance. That was the full interview, folks. So I wonder if he joined up with the Azov Brigade or the right sector, would he still have the same opinion? I don't know. Here is another perspective from a YouTube channel. It's got over 600,000 subscribers. It's called Redacted. You can check it out. I will post this video in the description, but just listen to this. It's something we've talked about here on the podcast. It's about 14 minutes long. We may play the whole clip, we may not. So I give you the times of the clips in case you want to fast forward through them. It's up to you. But here it is.
Well, we start tonight with the truth, and the truth is painful, as we do every night, but this truth is particularly hard to swallow, and it might make you a little uncomfortable tonight, as often the truth can. The NATO-led war in Ukraine is entering a dark and disturbing phase right now, the phase of desperation. I think that's where we are right now, and the truth is starting to show itself in a number of different ways. It's getting increasingly hard for the Western media to try to hide this. Try as they might, they are absolutely trying to hide this. In fact, today, they're trying to show the softer side of the Nazi-led Azov battalion in eastern Ukraine. We're getting played like we all realize we're getting played. Video of Ukrainian soldiers with pets shows their softer side. Do you remember this in Afghanistan when soldiers were leaving and they were like rescuing pets, and we were showing like as we're leaving this war-torn country, like, oh, we're rescuing babies and we're rescuing pets.
Oh, you think this is a page out of the old like feel good about
Of course.
the conflict.
Caitlin Johnson says this war propaganda campaign keeps finding new and innovative ways to insult our intelligence. But you are smarter than that. You're watching this show, so hopefully you don't fall for this total bullshit. But today we saw intense fighting in the city of Mariupol, where we've learned that Russian forces are calling for the surrender of Ukrainian troops that have been holed up in a factory there. Now, according to Western media, including USA Today, which we mock on this show on a regular basis, but according to the USA Today, Russian forces are giving these Ukrainian forces a chance to surrender. They're saying, you have a time. By this afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, you must surrender. And they're not doing that. In fact, we're learning that these forces are the Nazi-led Azov battalion. And instead of surrendering, they've decided to use women and children as human shields. These low-life cowards are, in fact, hiding out now in this particular area with women and children as they're holed up in this area.
Let me say that another way, because that sounds a little shocking, the way you just said that. So there is a deadline for these places to be evacuated, and now there are videos surfacing from the Azov Brigade, which is a white supremacy organization that has been embedded inside of the Ukrainian military, and they are releasing their own videos saying, we have no intentions to leave. We're going to stay here in these buildings that have women and children. And so since you've already proven that you will bomb places that are vulnerable with women and children and pregnant ladies, then we will stay here and you'll have to hurt those people too. So let's roll the video of that person saying that.
Я командир полку Азов, підполковник Денис Прокопенко. Звертаюся до світових лідерів. Прямо зараз на заводі «Азовсталь» знаходяться сотні цивільних громадян. Серед них багато дітей різного віку, жінок, літніх людей та сімей захисників Маріуполя, які ховаються від руського міру в підвалах та бомбосховищах. Поряд з українськими військовими, які продовжують боронити місто, вони знайшли єдиний можливий прихисток.
So eagle-eyed observers are noticing that, of course, he's not panning around and showing the women and children that are in this room, keeping it very tight and facing upwards on him, which is a great way to do that, so you can't actually see what's happening in this room. But others are reporting that this is commander of the Azov Regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Denis
Prokopenko is how I would say it.
Which is currently being bombed by Russian planes, has many civilians hiding from the occupiers in this area. So what's interesting is this idea that, these people just decided to hole up with the Azov battalion, and they're friends, they're hanging out. But as Patrick Lancaster has been an amazing reporter on the ground in this area, he's been there for 8 years. It's amazing, because he's there with a hard hat, a military hat. He's on the ground covering the story in eastern Ukraine.
He speaks the local language fluently.
Yeah, he has been for years covering this area, right? And then you have like BBC reporters who show up and they put on a helmet and they stand with like their backs with the camera like right there. They're like, I'm a war correspondent. No. Like Patrick is a war correspondent. Patrick has been covering these atrocities that have been happening in eastern Ukraine for the last 8 years. He says, and according to his reports, he's actually been watching this unfold, seeing women and children being captured by the Azov battalion and being captured against their will for many, many months and being held against their will in these locations. In fact, he has this report, which he just released, talking to a Russian soldier who is trying to evacuate children from this area. Watch. This is Patrick. This is his reporting.
And some soldiers just showed up on the scene. And it seems like they're going to evacuate some people or something like this. We're going to have to see how that goes. We're still just getting the information, trying to figure out exactly what's happening here. Thought we wrapped up this boat. Not so much. Можно сказать, что будет сейчас?
So he's saying, can you tell me what's going on now? And he says, we're escorting children away from this area. We're going to take them through a safe corridor to evacuate small children, he says. He goes on to say, can you introduce yourself? Who are you? And he says, I'm engaged in rescuing children from the basement and evacuating them to a safe place. He asked this soldier to identify himself, and he says, are you from the Donbass region? Are you from Russia? He says, I'm Russian. I'm a Russian soldier. Are you DPR? And he says, yes, you see, children are not here of their own free will. They were taken hostage in the area of this hospital. okay, in this territory of this hospital. So these women and children being taken against their will and being used as human shields with this Azov battalion. Now, this is, of course, what the mainstream media doesn't want you to see. This is, of course, what Western social media doesn't want you to see. And if you report on it, you get blocked. Like Patrick has gotten blocked from his videos.
In fact, most of his videos are allowed to still play on YouTube, but they have this warning that the content has been identified as inappropriate or offensive to some audiences. Now, who would find this offensive, right, is anyone who does not want you to believe that there are any kind of adverse or unsavory characters inside Ukraine, that the war is black and white, Russians bad, Ukrainians good, right? And again, we've been warning for weeks about this oversimplification, which leads to, you know what, I've decided today, I'm not going to use the word misinformation because it's a smug word, and it also implies that you should control what people see. Information is information. I feel like we should stop using the word disinformation and allow the reader to decide for themselves. It's a stupid word. It's only out there to control what other people say.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's just information. And how about I don't tell you what to think and what is true and what is not? Again, you know.
And why should social media be giving these labels? I mean, why should Twitter be telling us that this is some kind of state-affiliated media? Why should YouTube be downranking videos? Like, did you see the news today about Meghan Markle? Like, there are people that have...
she wore something right out of the runway?
No. That there are people who have critical videos of Meghan Markle on YouTube, and they're being downranked because YouTube doesn't want you talking poorly about Meghan Markle.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, I mean,
but the whole British press does that.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you know, they do not want you to speak ill about certain politics that they agree with or disagree with, and that's how they turn it down. It's unbelievable. So, Azov Battalion using women and children as human shields in the steel factory. And this has been going on for months, and we're going to continue to report on this.
But what does seem to be happening right now is all eyes on the Donbas region. So what will happen in Mariupol, we do not know yet. We'll have to watch. But even the Western and the Eastern media are both warning, we do plan to converge on the Donbas region. This is our intent all along, and that's where the shit's going to go down.
Well, and by the way, we have reports of this. We covered it here on the show a number of weeks ago. The Azov Battalion, the Nazi Azov Battalion, putting artillery batteries on the top of kindergarten buildings, on the top of children-centered areas. So when this general gets up there and he talks about how... there's schools, hospitals, and kindergartens have been destroyed. Oh, I wonder why. When you had the very women, the teachers who were the Ukrainian women who were teaching in these schools coming out to these guys saying, why are you putting these batteries on the top of our school? There's an open field over there. Why are you doing this? And they tell them to go away. So you wonder why kindergartens have been hit. Why have kindergartens been hit? Well, if there's a missile battery on the roof of the place, of course it's going to be hit by by Russian forces.
Right. And so I think we should clarify that we are not here to say we think that Russia had any place in Ukraine, that this is a justified war by any means. We are here to not oversimplify the conflict and talk about how it's dangerous for everybody. And civilians are at harm for a human-made war. And for us to just choose sides in this time, and just because we think it's a popular thing to do, it makes it dangerous for other people.
And the Western media, like, it's amazing to watch, like, shit liberals like in America who have their Ukrainian flag and their Twitter handle, and who are totally ignoring or downplaying anything to do with the Azov Battalion and what they've actually done to women and children here, and what they've been doing for months, according to the journalists who are on the ground in that region, killing civilians. That has absolutely been happening. It's been totally covered over. And this meme hit me today because this is absolutely the case. Liberals in neo-Nazis in the United States, whoa, no way, we don't allow that. Oh, neo-Nazis in Ukraine? Hey, with Geordie LaForge from Star Trek.
I'm not sure that hits it home for me, but okay.
I think it works.
I have to think about that for a while.
Yeah.
Sure.
I absolutely see it. Yeah. So,
well, meanwhile, every story that I see about, just on Monday was it in Sweden? There was an uprising against Muslim immigrants in Sweden. In the United States now, there is information that arrests on the southern border hit an all-time high in March alone, right? Arresting people for seeking asylum when we're coming up with all kinds of ways to welcome Ukrainians. Just yesterday in the UK, they're saying now asylum seekers will be shipped to Rwanda. So we are repositioning all kinds of brown people to the end of the line so that we can put Ukrainians in the front. And how is that right? How can we live with that, right? So I don't use terms like shit liberals. I think it's just like bandwagon hoppers who maybe can't even point to Ukraine on the map, who say this is a popular thing. I will think what the government wants me to think.
Okay. That was a little shorter than 14 minutes because I've had enough. All right. I had enough of that report. Folks, I just give it to you like I see it. I play the long form reports because I believe you guys deserve to hear them, because you're not getting that anywhere else unless you tune into YouTube or get on Twitter or tend to have a lot of time to search them out. So I bring the ones that catch my eye and I send them to you. I didn't comment on the long report from Joy Reid. I'm not going to comment on this report other than to say there are two sides to this war. There's actually multiple sides to this war that's happening in Europe. And the multiple sides are agreeing in some aspects and disagreeing in other aspects. What are we to believe, folks? We're not there. Malcolm Nance was there, right? Patrick Lancaster, you heard him. He's putting out reports from, I would say, the Russian perspective because he's embedded, and he really is on the front lines, folks. That dude is on the front lines. He's been there a long time. I believe his wife's either Ukrainian or Russian because he sent his family to Russia. He said that because I watched I would say all of Patrick Lancaster's videos. I do a lot of research, folks. I don't play a lot of Patrick Lancaster here on the podcast, but I do watch it. And I think he's becoming more known because he is really the only American embedded with the Russian forces. He was embedded with the Chechens and some other Russian folks. There were a mixed bag of folks right there in Mariupol. You can maybe I'll post that video in the description of this podcast, and you folks can check that out. But Patrick Lancaster, I'm sure he'll be banned from YouTube here for long. They shouldn't, because we need both sides of the story. If we only have the one side where they're, look, I get it. I know it's war. There are atrocities coming from the Russian side. And there are bad things happening on the Ukrainian side. Folks, we had bad things happen in Afghanistan. There was a dude who ran through a village killing people from the U.S. Army. I believe he was a staff sergeant, right? Abu Ghraib in Iraq. Remember the pyramid of terrorists, right? Naked terrorists, and they put them in all kinds of different stress positions and posing with their pictures with thumbs up. That's BS, man. That ain't cool. I wouldn't stand for it, and I don't think anybody should stand for it. War sucks. I didn't want war. And when you go to war, and if you feel like me, it's, bad things are going to happen, right? But you need to do it by the letter of the law and defend your soldiers the best you can without chopping heads off on the internet or using children as human shields. If that's happening, it's wrong. And it's weak. It's weak. Using children anywhere is weak. Man, that's a whole nother story. We could go down a whole nother freaking road on that, where children are being used and abused here in the United States and all around the world. It's wrong. Child predators, in my opinion, I've said this many times, should hang from the highest tree in the land. But that's just me. That's just how I feel about it. And I'm against the death penalty, folks. Right? You sell your salvation on the death penalty, I think. But moving on. Thou shalt not murder. But Matt, an eye for an eye. Oh, good night. I'll have to get a preacher on here to tell us about it. Speaking of which, if you haven't watched The Gospel Message on Facebook with the Red Rooster, you might want to check it out. He does a podcast. Anyway, we should get the Red Rooster. You need to be on this podcast. We're calling you out right now to talk about all this and more. Okay, here we go. Next subject. So if you're following us at Truman's Town Hall podcast Facebook page, we posted about a day ago, 2 days ago, where is Gonzalo Lira? Right? Where is Gonzalo Lira? He wrote, this was, I don't know, it was a couple of days ago, but he was in, I believe, Kharkiv in Ukraine, and he was not for the war in Ukraine, but he was giving, maybe it was a Russian perspective, maybe it was Russian-sided, but he was given a perspective from in-country, right? He was on Twitter at Real Gonzalo Lira. He hasn't been seen in a while. And he wrote a while back, you want to learn the truth about the Zelensky regime? Google these names. And I'm going to mess them up, so forgive me. Vladimir Struk, Denis Kareev, Mikhail and Alexander Konovovich, Nestor Shevkich, Yan Taskier, Dmitry Dongryov, Alina Razanya. I don't know. I probably screwed them all up. You can look at Gonzalo at Real Gonzalo Lira, the @ sign RealGonzalolira. It's on Twitter. You can look this tweet up if you want. If you haven't heard from me in 12 hours or more, put my name on the list. So apparently these folks were missing. And now he's missing. He is. He's missing. He put this tweet out. This, I think, was one of his last videos that he put out. And I'll let you hear it.
If ever you don't hear from me for 12 hours during this conflict, if it's 12 hours or more, assume that I've been picked up by the SBU. And assume that the people most responsible are the Daily Beast. The Daily Beast, who deliberately lied about me, claiming that I'm not in Kharkov, admitted to the fact that people are looking for me and want to get a hold of me in the very hit piece that they wrote, and that they contacted the Ukrainian government to make them aware that I'm in Kharkov, make them aware of my significance, make them aware so they can send some SBU goons to get me. Understand what the Daily Beast has done. And when I said, in the title of this, that the Daily Beast wants to kill me, I'm not being hyperbolic.
The SBU in Ukraine is, it's like their it's the Secret Service of Ukraine. It's the KGB of Ukraine, or the CIA, whatever. I mean, however you want to put it. Did they pick up Mr. Lira because he was reporting, in the Ukrainians' eyes, negatively of them? Ladies and gentlemen, in the United States, sometimes we have, maybe Project Veritas wouldn't agree with this, but sometimes, we're supposed to have freedom of the press in the United States. It would be nice if we would be able to talk about things, and if you defame somebody or something like that, then you deal with that in court. But we don't always have it here. And you darn sure don't have it in Ukraine, and you darn sure don't have it in Russia, and you darn sure don't have it in China, right? We can go down the line. Venezuela, no, don't have it there. You could talk about like Mexico. Nope. Get killed in Mexico for talking about different things. Heck, you get killed in America. There were some white supremacist dudes that killed that journalist way back when, in the 70s, right? Remember, or 80s. The guy's name was Alan Berg. Alan Berg. Yeah, it was 1984. He was assassinated June 18th, 1984, by the white supremacist group, The Order, who believe in killing all Jews and sending all black people back to Africa. Yeah, we got that in America. Oh, folks, what a crazy, crazy world we live in, right? Before we get out of here today I'm recording this, today is April 21st. April 19th marked the 29th year since the Waco Massacre. 80 men, women, and children were killed, burned out of their home. A lot of folks like to say, oh, no, they started the fire. The church members did. I don't believe that, folks. I don't believe it for a minute. Were they preppers? Yeah, probably. Were they, did they believe maybe like you didn't believe? Maybe. It's possible. Did they believe in Jesus Christ? They did. They certainly did. And they were murdered, in my opinion. And we can't go off this podcast without talking about this. Happened in 1993. There's movies, there's books. David Thibodeau wrote a great book. He's one of the survivors of the Waco Massacre. He wrote Waco, a Survivor's Story. They also did a Netflix series using David Thibodeau's book and the FBI negotiator Gary Nezzer. His book was called Stalling for Time. In my opinion, David Thibodeau's book's a lot better. It's from the inside. If you want to get both perspectives, which I did, I read Mr. Nezzer's book as well, but I enjoyed Mr. Thibodeau's book better. There's another fella who I'm friends with on Facebook. His name's Mike Hansen. I may try to get him on the podcast. I don't know. Sometimes I just don't know about getting different folks on the podcast because I'm a little shy about asking. That's why we don't have a lot of guests here. He posts different videos, and he has something called Mike Hansen Archives, where he's archived a lot of different stuff with Waco, rebuilding the church there, with Alex Jones, right? If you go over to band.video, there's all of Mike Hansen Archives. I think he has it on YouTube. Mike Hansen posted an interview from back in April 19th of 2019 with Sheila Martin. He was posting, him and David Thibodeau were out to dinner. They all met in Waco to commemorate the 29th anniversary of the Waco Massacre. And, remember all those who were lost, men, women, and children. If you don't think the United States government isn't beneath killing children, you're wrong. They are. Mike Hansen, this is Sheila Martin. They did a lot of different interviews back in the day. This is one of hers. What a sweet woman. And what a heartbreaking situation she's had to went through. It's hard when all you're trying to do is worship God, protect yourself with the Second Amendment. They got raided because they were selling dummy grenades, and somebody said, hey, they got grenades. They were dummy grenades. They worked out and through gun shows. It's legal in America. Sometimes, right? Unless they want to make a point, and they're going to make a point. The FBI put out a post before I play this Sheila Martin video from Mike Hansen. The FBI made a post commemorating Oklahoma City, which did happen on April 19th. interesting. It's possible that it was just Tim McVeigh and the Nichols dude, but I don't know. Some people question that. But they put out a post commemorating that, which is, there were children killed then too. And Tim McVeigh is on record, on video, talking and saying that was just collateral damage. Well, that's bullshit. Excuse my French. That's BS. Because children are not collateral damage in your war against government or in your war against gun owners or your war against whatever. Remember what happened at Ruby Ridge. FBI agent, allegedly, right? Lon Hariuchi shot and killed 14-year-old Sammy Weaver, right? All this has happened, folks. Anyway, I'll get long in the tooth and continue to talk about this, but I didn't want to get off this podcast without remembering Waco 29 years ago. Here's survivor Sheila Martin from Mike Hansen.
Hello, folks. We're here on the 26th anniversary of the tragedy at Waco, and we have Miss Sheila Martin. First of all, Sheila, tell the people on Facebook who you are. Somebody that might not know you, I doubt it, but you never know.
Well,
and then what happened to your family, just real quick.
Well, I came to Texas with a husband and 5 children. Then we had 2 extra children when we lived in Palestine. So when we were here in Mount Carmel, it was a family of 9. And all the family members that I brought with me to Texas.
And that was
died.
What year was that? 1993?
1985 when we came to Texas. 1988 when we went back to Mount Carmel. They were living in Palestine, Texas. And all the children that I had when I came here to Texas.
How many children did you have altogether?
7. But 5, we had 5 children when we came to Texas. Then we had 2 more once we came to Texas, 1 in Palestine and 1 in Waco. So we ended up with 7 children. But the children that I brought with me have all died. The 2 that are still remaining, they're now 30 and 33. So
I know they're old now. When my kids were little, they used to play together. They even came to my house when they were 5 years old?
Yes, very young. And so as it turns out, every year you keep remembering the experiences that you went through all through these years, and you hoped for this time to still have all your children, still have your husband, because we're all still young enough to still be alive and still live and be healthy. And when you look back and you keep seeing things going smaller and smaller and less people, and you realize how long things have gone, but you keep your faith, you keep your hope, you keep your trust in God and in religion, and that's the only way you can live through all the things that have happened and all the situations that we're just very sad of.
So you lost your husband, Wayne Martin, and he was a lawyer, right?
Yes, a lawyer and a law librarian at the University of North Carolina
and
Central.
4 children, or 5.
4 children
Four
in
children.
the 5, but almost 5 years to the day, my handicapped son, little Jamie, he died. So by the time the 5th anniversary came, 5 of the children.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you this year real quick is, I've been thinking about it a lot. Do you feel that everybody has got the truth out about what happened at Mount Carmel?
No,
because,
no, I don't.
And do you feel that you had any kind of justice, or do you leave that in the hands of God?
Well, I leave it in the hands of God to provide and to reward us later. Right now, there are things that we all are facing. Our age, that we have no jobs or less, we need to think about how we're going to live, and the government has never really compensated us or made a way for us, and yet we thank God for all that He has done for us and the people who have been in our lives and who have provided patience and strength and monetary ways and food, everything. God is.
I don't know how you've made it all these years.
I think that
I always when people call me and say, "Oh, what can I do for the Branch Davidians?" I say, "Well, you give Sheila some money, buy her book, help Clive, do whatever y'all can do to help, because I really think that y'all were violated, and no justice. Nobody's ever been. Has anybody ever been indicted for what they've done to your family?
No. They said that they couldn't, have in any way blame the government because we were people who looked like we went against the government, and when I called to Walmart and I called to the Red Cross, they were told that we were people who were civil disobedient and we can't be helped.
Well, I can't believe that. Knowing y'all all these years, I cannot. Y'all are the most mild and meekest people that I've ever met in my life. I'm not a Branch Davidian, but I love y'all to death.
Well, we knew that the Bible says to love your enemies, to do good to those who do things bad to us. So we kept that in our heart. David told us that we are not to be angry at the people because they were just doing what their boss told them. We should recognize that they had no hope. They had no understanding of what was going on. So we had to have a much better spirit, and we're glad. We're very glad we did, because then people could see that there was no anger in us and just the spirit and love of God.
Is there anything on the 26th anniversary, is there anything you want to tell the people out there, and then we got to go? Because I try to keep these at 10 minutes.
Oh, no. I want people to not give up. No matter what they see, whatever situation they're in, there's a God that loves them and greater than they could ever imagine. There's a peace and the mercy of the angels watching over us day after day, moment after moment. And just don't give up, but rest in God and look forward to the better things that are getting ready to happen.
Well, I love seeing you every year. And you never change.
No,
you're so beautiful all the time. From the first time I seen you 25 years ago, you haven't changed.
No, you're so kind. Thank you so much.
All right, well, God bless you.
Thank you.
And tell everybody on Facebook, bye. Okay. I got 3,500 friends, so you're talking to 3,500 people out there.
Thank you so much.
God bless y'all.
Bye now.